Okay, welcome everyone to the first edition of Dutchlink Goes Online. In the coming weeks, the Dutchlink board will interview a number of Sydney-based, in general, Dutchlink people. And today we start the series with an interview of the Consul-General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, being Frank van Beuningen. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you, Bert.
Okay, good. Well, we're off and running. So, look, thanks for agreeing to the interview, and good to see you again, obviously. What we'll do is we'll have a brief interview. We'll start with COVID, then we'll briefly touch on the trade relations between the Netherlands and Australia, and then we'll finish on Australian and other culture and nature subjects. So my first question to you, Frank. So COVID-19, I mean, we can't get around that. So it's impacting all parts of our society at the global level, in fact. And it impacted, of course, even the King's Day celebrations in a major way in the Netherlands, as most of us will have seen on the news and online. So tell us a little bit about how you are responding in your professional life to the COVID-19 situation, Frank.
These are extraordinary circumstances, as we all now experience. And I think the main thing for me now to say is that the colleagues here at the Consul-General are healthy. We have no COVID-19 cases in the team, nor in their families, but of course we must knock on wood. Hopefully it stays that way. We're mostly working from home now, which is of course a big change. And my own experience is that you really need to do an extra effort to keep the team spirit alive under these circumstances, because people don't see each other that much. For us, we had a very busy few weeks because of the repatriation of Dutch stranded travelers.
Yes.
Back to the Netherlands. People could registrate, and on the basis of the numbers, we've been able to organize 5 flights, mostly from Sydney. But on those flights, there were also Dutch people who were stranded in New Zealand. They had a transfer over here. My impression is that that went well, although we had to improvise a lot, and most people were very, very happy to be able to go back to the Netherlands under these circumstances. And you already touched upon it. Yes, there's no King's Day celebration this week. No celebrations at all worldwide are foreseen, so also not in the Netherlands. And as we were already saying, the current extraordinary, and for some, let's not forget that, very sad circumstances we are living and working under. They left The Hague, Minister Blok, no other choice than to cancel all King's Day celebrations this year. So that is unique and sad in a way. But on the other hand, I see that people do come together and share a lot of their individual King's Day celebrations via social media, which is a pleasure to see.
Yeah, and look, it's I mean, we're now probably, I mean, it started in January, maybe even December, of course, in China, but in January then it became bigger. And by now, of course, there has been a lot of impact, and you know of people. Is it affecting your personal life? Have you any particular personal aspects to this tragedy?
Well, as everybody in New South Wales and in and around Sydney, I stay home most of the time. Go out for walks, do some exercise, do my shopping. I'm healthy, again, knock on wood, so I don't have to leave the home for medical reasons, but I do go to the office every now and then. And then at home and in Sydney, I have a beautiful residence, so I can sit in the garden. I I read a lot of books. It's a bit of a pity that libraries are closed, by the way. But anyway, that's the way it is. So for me, this lockdown is very good doable. No problems at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and so moving on to trade and I guess your formal role here in Australia. As a trade officer, you'll know that education is one of the top 5 sectors in Australia for export. There have been some initiatives between the Netherlands and Australia. One of our members, Frans Verstraat, who lectures at the Sydney University, wondered if anything further is being considered in the area of education between the Netherlands and Australia. Are there any other ideas on how we could get the Netherlands more involved?
Yeah, what I can say, in our economic diplomacy, we do have priority sectors. So that is livability and accessibility, so mostly infrastructure and logistics and smart cities, sustainable food production, healthy living, the circular economy, and also we support the NVA in their investment attraction. And for us, academic cooperation is mostly a forerunner of these type of more commercial activities. That doesn't mean that we walk away from it, but it's not one of our priority sectors, although we are very well aware of the fact that this type of services for Australia are very high on their export ranking. But only last year, Maastricht University, Utrecht University, Groningen, Twente, they were all here. We were able to call on Frans for a meeting between the Netherlands Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Blok, with Dutch students who are studying here in Sydney. So thank you, Frans, for that again. And it was a good meeting. But then on the other end, we have AMS, Amsterdam Metropolitan Studies, Sydney University, that cooperate. We're currently working on Wageningen University and Monash in Melbourne. So yeah, there are things happening over there. And we support it as well as we can. And Frans knows his way around in academic spheres. So if he has an initiative, you know, we can certainly work on it.
Yeah, good. And another question. This one was suggested by Victor Konijn, another one of our members. You know, during your time in Australia, and obviously your time actually outside the Netherlands and traveling around the world, or working around the world, I should say. So, given your global experience, what have you found the most striking Australian differences? So what do you think are the best or most enjoyable aspects of Australians, and what are the most difficult aspects of living in Australia?
Well, I don't encounter that much difficulties over here, you know, except from the circumstances that we're now living under. But yes. For me, as I see it, Australia, 3 things at the same time. It's a country, it's an island, and it's a continent. And Australia is huge. And as all people who live in Australia know, the Netherlands is really small. We're only 2/3 of Tasmania. And it really strikes me that you have to explain it to people in The Hague all the time. To give an example, when we were organizing repatriation flights, there was a very last notice. On a very last notice, there were some chairs still available in the flight from Melbourne. And then we got in the morning, while the flight would leave at 3 or 4, the suggestion from The Hague, well, why don't you get the people from Brisbane to Melbourne? You know, and because people have no idea about the distances. So, you know, and yeah, Australia is huge. But Australia is also well organized. Quality of life is good over here. Life is relatively relaxed. So I enjoy my time here enormously. And it's all very positive, and I can't really see a downside. What I'm sometimes puzzled with, as a relatively an outsider, is how Australians view themselves and their country. To give you an example, I bought a map of the world, which has the Mercator, not the Mercator projection, but the Pacific projection, where Australia is in the middle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I used that to tell my Australian visitors at the office, for like, you know, the British, they didn't do you really a service by calling Australia down under, because that really gives the impression that it's far away. You can also look at it from a different perspective. And instead of that, people would say, hey, yeah, you can look at it that way too. I found out that they are a bit, they don't feel comfortable with that type of remark, you know, because the British and the Australians, you know, the ties are so strong, and they continue to look at the UK for guidance, for culture, well, for many, many other things. And that really sometimes puzzles me, that what I had expected, that they would be so proud of this beautiful country, that sometimes is my idea, is a little bit lacking.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been here 30 odd years, but yes, you're quite right. The link, the cultural link with the UK for many of the Australians, not for all obviously, but for many of the Australians, is actually quite strong. I agree with that. Another question, which was also by Frans, is that you're an avid watcher of bird life. I understand, and so tell us a bit about that. Have you managed to find in Australia?
Yeah, well, I discussed this with Frans, of course, earlier, but yeah, bird life in Australia for me is fascinating.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to. I got a phone call, or
oh, okay,
I really
right.
got a phone call, so I need to retake this answer. Bird life for me in Australia is, for me, fascinating. The sounds, you know, it's unbelievable. Yes. I wake up every morning to the sounds of noisy miners and rainbow parrots. You know, it's wonderful to wake up in that way. But I must say that I'm a relaxed bird watcher, in the sense that I'm not chasing species or anything. When I go out for a walk, I see what crosses my path. Yeah, you know, there are so many beautiful birds, but the eastern whipbird is one of my favorites.
Oh, it is outstanding. Outstanding. Yeah, it is so good.
And also because of the way they look. And by the way, I always say that the strangest birds are the bird watchers themselves. When I was still living in the Netherlands, I at one time saw a pretty rare bird. For the experts, the middle-sized pied woodpecker, the middelste bonte specht. And so I put that on a website, and indeed 2 or 3 hours later, there was this whole row of people with big binoculars and cameras looking at that bird. And I made a picture of those people looking at the bird, sending that again to the website, saying, de vreemdste vogels zijn nog altijd de vogelkijkers. The strangest birds are the bird watchers. And they didn't want to put that on the website, you know, and that is, for me, is not how I look at it, you know. Do it in a relaxed way. And yeah, and by the way, making pictures of birds is an art in itself. I don't make many pictures, I have a few, but to do that really well is an art, and not everybody has the patience to do it.
Yeah, if you can, there's a bird here called the bellbird, and after the whip bird, that's my next favorite sounds in birds in Australia. See if you can pick that one up. You can probably Google as to where you can listen to it.
Yeah, there are a few of those, and I had the opportunity to listen to the Bell Miners
Yeah.
last weekend, and yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, good fun. Well, look, we're keeping these interviews short to give people a chance to get to the end of it and still do the things they have to do in their daily lives. But look, I really appreciate the time we spent together. Glad to hear the family as well. Glad to hear you're well. And well, we shall meet again when the circumstances improve here and around the world. All the best, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, all the best. Thanks for this, and hope to see you at the other end of this pandemic tunnel.
Indeed.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Frank. Cheerio.